Hi, everybody, and welcome to this last episode in our second series of a justice-seeking church here at Shoreline Methodist Community. 13 weeks, 13 conversations, 13 insights into what it means to seek justice, to work for justice, to be part of a whole movement of bringing peace and justice for all people. I'm really pleased that Ian's with us again. Ian finished the last season for us, so it's just right that Ian Rutherford is here to help us finish this season off. Ian, welcome, sir.
It's great to be with you. I'm calling from Methodist Central Hall today in Manchester.
Fabulous. So I'm going to just sort of start by saying thank you. Always great that you're willing to come in and give us time and jab us in that fabulous grace-filled way that you have, because I think the more I sit in this seat, the more I understand that we need to be listening to those with that prophetic insight that says we can and we must and we should do more. So I'm going to be quiet, I'm going to disappear, and we look forward to what you have to bring to us today.
Well, I thought today I would talk about how we are building community here at Methodist Central Hall and from Methodist Central Hall as a justice-seeking church. I reckon there are 4 parts to it for us. First is community development, actually in the space that I'm speaking to you from on this presentation. The second is community organizing, which I know I've spoken about before in this series. Then to think about community power, something that's happening here in Greater Manchester, together with local authority and other sectors, which is fascinating. And then finally, just to wrap it into community justice seeking and what we're doing, particularly in relation to environmental work. So community development here at Methodist Central Hall, it's a big building. You'll see from this picture, it's a massive edifice, and it was put in there in the 1800s with a really strong sense that there was going to be an open, accessible space right in the center of the city. As far as we're concerned, our mission statement is to be a hub for social justice, to be a center for mission and service, and to be a place for public theology at the heart of the city, with a heart for the city. And we've been doing that all the way through since it was put up, as I say, back in the 1800s. It was the first Central Hall, actually, in the UK. A number of them, obviously, as you know, have been built since that time. And it is definitely a place where community is formed. Every day of the week, there are particular groups that will come, place of home and safety for them. They've always found a welcome here, hospitality here, a sanctuary here, but actually now they're building their own communities in this space. So every day a different group will come and be part of the building, but actually have their own community in this space. We've made it very clear to anybody that comes to do that here that we follow the whole premise of asset-based community development. And I'm just going to put up now some of the things that we actually believe are important. It has to be person-led, has to be relationship-oriented, asset-based, place-based, inclusion-focused. We definitely prioritize self-help. We have to have agency in all that we do. We also value the individual and what they have to offer. We're asset-based. We start with what is strong rather than what is wrong, and we build from there. And then in terms of this place, we see the community in and around the centre of Manchester as being the focus for change. And obviously the important thing is that everybody must feel included. We look out for the stranger and we offer radical hospitality. But it's interesting that although we've found that people who are maybe asylum seekers and refugees are coming into communities here, we've got 3 that are based in this space. Maybe people who are experiencing homelessness are finding a place of safety in this space. We've got one particularly that is coming every Friday, Saturday and Sunday to build community here. But we've also got people who are just coming in off the streets and knowing that they can come to places like Befrienders or the community chaplaincy and just have a place to be. But we also know that sometimes we're dealing there with some of the justice issues across Greater Manchester, really sort of on the front line, if you like. But we need to go deeper. We need to go further upstream to see what the problems are, and maybe we can deal with some of the causes of these things. So one of the fascinating things about what's happened here at Central Hall in terms of our community development are the number of action networks that are based here, where people from all the different sectors are coming together to do something about that justice issue. We have to make sure that lived and living experience is at the centre of all of those action networks. But the first picture shows you the Greater Manchester Homelessness Action Network meeting in our main hall, where we bring people from all the different charities and local authorities, from DWP, from the prison service, from probation, from the police, every sector you can think of, housing providers, voluntary faith and community sector. They're all here to see what difference we can make in relation to this. So building that into a community has been really fascinating since 2017. One of the particular things that we have to get involved with at the moment is the whole issue of migration and homelessness. So we held a round table with interfaith colleagues recently just to see what more we could do to build these communities that we're talking about. We learn together, we lobby together, and we deliver together because of the imperative that we have to welcome the stranger. And so we've got that as a bit of a standard thing that happens here at Central Hall. We'll be open for those task forces and action networks to come together. One of the ones that we started back in 21 was the Food Security Action Network. There was a serious situation that had developed within Greater Manchester at that time. And we wanted to make sure we had all the different folks there, not just the emergency food banks, but also the community groceries, the pantries, but also the manufacturers and the supermarkets and everybody that was involved in food coming together to make sure that it was not just secure, but also sustainable. And so here we are in our mosaic space down in the basement of Central Hall, meeting together to make the appropriate plans to make a change. Also, the other issue that, of course, is an existential one for us is the issue of climate change. And so we have an organisation called Our Faith, Our Planet, which brings us all together in that space to decide what we're going to do. We've come up with 3 commitments that we've decided to really go with, supporting the use of renewable technology, accelerating the decarbonisation of our places of worship, using our land to help heal nature and increase biodiversity, and encourage our communities to engage in proactive transformational behavioural change. These are all the things that we do in the community development section of what we do here at Methodist Central Hall, Manchester. The second thing I wanted to just mention was our community organising space. You'll be aware that I've mentioned before that we are part of a local chapter of Citizens UK, Greater Manchester Citizens. We've been one of those institutions since the very beginning of the chapter in 2017. Obviously, Citizens UK has a particular methodology for getting social change. Just putting it up on the screen just now. The 5 steps are to organise a diverse alliance, to listen to your community, that's the important one, to then plan from that a strategic response to an issue, and then take action to get a reaction, then get a seat at the table and negotiate. So we are strongly involved in that sort of community organising that happens here. Central Hall is a member institution, so is the local Methodist district. And our real plan is to develop leaders, to strengthen institutions, and to increase our relational power to make change. Those are the 3 strategic aims that we've got. We've added a 4th one this year nationally, which is to build trust across difference. That's a massively important one, it seems to me, following what happened last year in our country when there was such tension and the need for us to understand our communities more by listening to them very strongly and to give that space for conversation, maybe some difficult dialogues that need to take place. And so therefore to have this fourth aim of building trust across difference is massively important. We're running up to a youth assembly that we're having with power holders here in Greater Manchester on the 4th of July, where particularly our young people who are in the chapter from our schools and universities are going to be putting forward some of the things that are causing them real pain at the moment. Interesting enough, one of them actually is hate and discrimination, where they're finding that it's hard to go on public transport. It's hard just to go down the street to the shops because there's a sense of division. And so therefore, what more can be done within our situation to bring a social change with regard to that, and show young people actually that when you build trust across difference, there is a change that will come. The third thing that I mentioned that I was going to just refer to you in terms of what's happening here is community power. This all really comes from an incredible movement that has started here in Greater Manchester called Live Well. It came out particularly from what health and well-being practitioners were suggesting needed to be in place for all of our communities across Greater Manchester. But it's grown much more than that, because if the whole plan is to actually offer centres and spaces and offers that provide everyday support for everyone to live well, I guess we have to ask the question, well, what does it take to live well? And to live well, you need a good home. You need a good job. You need access to health. You need access to good transport. You need some green spaces. You need all of those things to be in place to live well. And one of the things that we have asked is that we don't just have some people over here that decide what it means to live well, but actually in our own communities on a grassroots level, we actually are asking that question of ourselves. What would it take for us in this community to live well? And when you do that, you give power to that community to make its own decisions and to receive funding that enables it to do what it thinks needs to be done. You build power within the communities and you allow those situations to be community-led. This is the shift of power that has happened just over the last few months here in Greater Manchester, where we are seeing people come together. And you've probably just seen this slide that's popped up, where it's a very busy slide, where you've got so many people, hundreds and hundreds of people that came into Central Hall last October in order just to show some of the things that they were doing within their community, some of the things that they were hearing in their communities. And we brought the power holders, you'll see them on the bottom right, sitting listening to all of the power that was in that room. Just last week, I went on a bus trip with the Mayor of Greater Manchester, with a number of other community leaders, across to 4 different community spaces that were showing just exactly what this is, what power is when you give it to in its fullest extent to the communities themselves. Some of the ideas that are coming, some of the innovation that's coming, some of the creativity that is there within people. It's a strength-based approach. It's what do we think we need to have here in our communities is causing quite a massive ripple effect across all of those places. And it was an exciting and inspiring day. That was just 4 spaces that we went to. There are many, many hundreds of those across our conurbation, actually across the whole country, that we could just tap into. So we allow the grassroots to help us to get to the place where everyone is living well in our communities. There is just a bit of academic stuff here. There's a power ladder that actually we've been working on, I think here in this place, where at the bottom of the ladder, the residents are just recipients. They receive services, they're only clients. But as you go further in, they become information sources. They're part of focus groups, perhaps. They have consultations with people, but that's not enough. Just filling in some surveys is never going to get you the justice that you need. And so therefore, going further up the ladder, residents become participants. They start to set some goals. They start to plan and implement some things. And that's been happening for many years across the UK. where they've moved into that particular space. But that's not enough even then. What's needed is to get to the top of the ladder where residents are in control. They're actually producing this change that we talk about when we think about justice. And so from my point of view, that power ladder is something that we are working up here in Greater Manchester, not without its tensions, not without its issues, but the fact is that when you see it, it becomes a movement. And that's what we're seeing here in this place. Going to finish just with reference and just landing it within the whole sense that we've had within the Methodist Church over these last few years of justice being at the heart of the church and the need for us to be faith-rooted and broad-based in our community organising to bring justice to our spaces. And of course, as Methodists, we have these 5 priorities: poverty, environment, refugees, discrimination, and peace. And we're making real progress in relation to all of that, in forming priority collaboration groups that actually help us to, across the country, start to see things change. I'm working in the climate justice-seeking collaboration group, and we are creating spaces where conversations will lead to change. We formed an eco-community network. We host spaces for information and action and bring resources for conversation that can happen everywhere. And I know that they're happening here in Shoreline in this particular situation. I did want to really invite you all to consider joining our eco-community network to help us to really forge even more work within the UK on the environment and climate justice. So all you've got to do is go on Facebook and type in Eco Community Network, apply to join, and I'll make sure that you're brought into that group so that you can hear some of the things that people are doing all over the UK in relation to this particular priority. And also to maybe join some of our webinars that we're holding in conjunction with the Learning Network and Action for Hope, where we're actually making sure that people can get the best resources they can get to help them to do something in their own area in relation to climate justice. So that's all for me. This is obviously a space here in Greater Manchester which helps us to build these sort of communities. But I guess everywhere we are, we need to be developing community. We need to be organising as community. We need to see the power that is in community. And we need to be justice seeking as part of our community.
Thank you, Ian. A place for public theology. I love that. I love that whole concept. I love the fact that it's not a new concept. It's one we need to keep developing. So thank you, Ian. Thank you once again for coming and sharing the story of your ministry, but the wider ministry that's happening there in Manchester. Perhaps you might be inspired by some of what Ian has shared. Perhaps that's your next best step in moving to becoming and building a justice-seeking church. I believe as Christians, we are called to seek God's justice, justice that enables everyone and all creation to flourish, justice that removes everything that diminishes people, that oppresses or exploits them, justice that enables us to grow in relationship with each other and with God. The gospel shows us how subversive Jesus was, how willing he was to go into those hard places, to share in a non-judgmental way. Are you called to be a Christian subversive, a Christ-centered subversive? We're going to take a break over the summer, but there are going to be 2 specials, so look out for those. We're going to be back in September for season 3. this justice work continues. The calling to all of us is the same. The question is constant. What is mine to do? God bless.